Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Gillespie and I just finished my freshman year at the University of Notre Dame studying mechanical engineering. On behalf of the Engineering Tomorrow team, I'm delighted to welcome you to our Inspired to Engineer video series. Engineering Tomorrow is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to increase the number of high school students who enroll in college and pursue a degree in engineering. In addition to offering field trips to our engineering labs and local engineering sites in various cities, we also provide high school students with virtual lab experiences and virtual interviews with professional engineers around the world who are leaders in their respective fields. These engineers share their career experiences, discuss unique engineering challenges they've solved, and provide thoughtful advice to aspiring engineers. Today, I'm pleased to introduce you to our guest, John Higgins. Mr. Higgins, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please begin by telling us about your path to becoming an engineer?
Thanks, Caroline. Well, I was always interested and fascinated in technology. And when I was 17, I passed my driving test and bought a 10-year-old Fiat 127 car, a little red one. It was really cool. I took it apart and then assembled it back so it looked like it was brand new, and it was great fun. It was very challenging, but I bought myself some books, learned how an internal combustion engine worked, and was able eventually to fine-tune the engine. When I was younger, I was always taking things apart and figuring out how they worked and putting them back together again. As a result, I ended up fixing most things that broke in our house from a very early age. In Ireland, age 17, you take the Leaving Certificate exam and you usually complete 7 subjects. Irish, English, and maths were mandatory. And then I chose French, physics, chemistry, and applied maths. All the science subjects were exciting because we were always completing experiments and I enjoyed all the practical elements. My cousin was a civil engineer, about 10 years older than me. And I always thought he had the coolest job and traveled the world utilizing his skills. When I left college and went to university, I decided to study mechanical engineering. I could have studied electronic, electrical, civil, or chemical engineering, but I felt that mechanical engineering gave me the broadest choice, as you could still specialize in those other areas later on. You've heard it said, and my dad used to say this all the time, you can make a businessman out of an engineer, but you can't make an engineer out of a businessman. And lots of kids these days, they want to go to college and study business, but engineering is a real option, even if you want to end up in business. In Ireland, many people who study engineering go on and complete an MBA. And while I studied engineering as my primary degree, I went on and completed a master's in business later on.
It's a really interesting story. I'm actually studying mechanical engineering as well, and I'm hoping to get a minor in business. So we have a similar plan there. Could you tell us about what you would consider to be a highlight in your career so far?
Sure. When I was 35, I became the managing director of a GE business in Ireland. We manufactured industrial diamonds, and it was full of really interesting technology. There was lots of it, including robotics, chemical processes, a huge recovery process, all very, very interesting. The role was great because on one hand, you were in the middle of all this technology, and I was a young engineer, essentially, but you're also leading a team of people and running the business. How more exciting could it get, I thought. Yeah. The business was highly innovative as well, as GE had invented industrial diamond in 1955. GE had and still has a very good graduate program. GE manufactures everything from aircraft engines to MRI scanners. It's a brilliant company to join, and the graduate program is excellent. I joined GE Semiconductor on a graduate program and was lucky to work with the company for 25 years. And a fantastic 25 years it was too.
Wow. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. You've said before that everything today produced has an engineer's fingerprints on it. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, yeah, if you think about it, when you wake in the morning these days, you probably grab your phone. It's been designed by software engineers and the greatest electronic engineers who work for Apple and Samsung. When you go to the kitchen to have breakfast, you probably make a cup of coffee. That requires electrical power. That could have been generated by a coal or oil-fired power station, or hopefully a renewable power source such as wind or solar. Just think about the amount of engineering that it takes to get that electricity to your home, just so you can make a cup of coffee. Then you might get in a car or a bus or on the metro to travel to work or college. Think about the engineering in transportation. You might travel on a motorway, across bridges, or through a tunnel. Just think about what's involved there. And when you think about it, everything you do throughout the day has an engineer's fingerprints on it. The buildings you visit, the transportation you take, the power you consume, the TV you watch, the internet, the food you eat. Everything, every single thing has been engineered in some way.
Yeah. Engineering Tomorrow actually shows a video that explains similar things to what you said in their intro at their conferences. And it wasn't until finding that video that I actually thought about all of those things. And it seems so simple now that you have thought about it, but it really is crazy how much engineers have influenced our life today. So thank you for sharing that. Would you agree that the primary goal of engineering is to improve the lives of others?
Absolutely. Of course it is. Engineers solve problems, and that ultimately improves the lives of many people. Think of all the bad news we've listened to recently about the COVID-19 pandemic. With this illness, unfortunately, a percentage of the population end up in intensive care. If they are very ill, they'll be put on a ventilator. That ventilator will save lives. Just think about the engineering that goes into the design and manufacture of a ventilator. How satisfying must it be for the engineers that have completed that work to see it in full use? Think about all the engineering that has to go into that machine before it can be used in an intensive care unit. And then, of course, at the other end of the spectrum, I'm sure we're all looking forward to taking our holidays again. Most of us will jump on a plane and fly somewhere we haven't been. There will be excitement of exploring new places and enjoying a holiday. Think about all the engineering that goes into making a plane fly. There are lots of clever aeronautical engineers in the world, and they have designed and built fantastic aircraft with very reliable engines that we all depend on when we take a trip by plane.
Right, yeah, definitely. So speaking of planes, I know you did a lot of work in your career at Gatwick Airport. Could you explain how your experience and work that you've done at Gatwick has improved the life of others?
Well, GIP, unfortunately, is full of chemical engineers, and I say that a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I have to fight my ground. But when you think of an airport, you think of people and planes. But when you step back and analyze it from an engineering point of view, you see what's going on. There's three flows. There's a passenger flow, a bags flow, and an aircraft flow. So the first is passengers. Passengers arrive at the airport by train or taxi or car. They walk in with their luggage, check it in, they do some shopping, board their aircraft and depart. When they return, they collect their luggage and make the return journey. The second flow is bags. Bags get checked in and they have to be processed and sorted before being loaded on an aircraft. And then the third flow is aircraft. Aircraft land, taxi to the parking stand, disembark passengers, reload with fuel, and the next set of passengers push back, taxi, and take off again for the next journey. In each of those flows, there is a whole lot of engineering that has to be applied to make the journey more seamless for the passenger. Make it safer, of course, because that's the number one priority. Make it more enjoyable and with less queues. Nobody likes queuing at an airport when passengers are happier when they're not queuing, and they usually spend more money. And that makes my boss very, very happy indeed.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a great story of a different side of the airport that most people probably don't see. So I'd love if you could conclude with sharing some advice for current high school students who are going through the process of discerning a college or a discipline within engineering.
I'd say the first thing is to pick the subjects you enjoy. I think when people enjoy things, they usually do very, very well at them. Engineering, you'll never go far on with an engineering degree. A lot of people who lead businesses these days, whether it's in Apple, GE, Motorola, they're all engineers. Engineers make really, really good business leaders. Engineers are really, really good team players. And engineering is so fascinating. It can be applied in many, many diversified areas of society. So I'd wish everybody the best of luck. Apply yourself in your studies and have lots and lots of fun.
Definitely. I could definitely agree with that statement from just my first year of studying engineering. But thank you so much, Mr. Higgins, for all of your insight and for all the stories that you shared with us today. And stay tuned for another Engineering Inspired to Engineer series coming soon.